It's 2025 and the music industry has changed a lot in the past, gosh, if you want to say 60 years, but even in the past 10, 15 years. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, we were all still buying CDs and waiting in line at the CD store to get your favorite album. Like Spotify wasn't even a thing yet. It's changed a lot. So that means also music releasing has changed a lot. So we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of releasing a single and the pros and cons of releasing an album, and which you should consider doing for yourself. If you're a musician and you want to release music, what should you do? Should you release a single? Should you release an album? We're going to talk about it. That being said, regardless of whether you're releasing a single or an album, I highly recommend when you decide to release that music, you release it through Distrokid. It's who I release my music through. You get unlimited distribution, meaning you can release as much music as you want, whenever you want. So whether you want to release 365 singles, one every day, or one album, it's the same price. You release as much as you want, or 12 albums, or 15 albums. That's the really cool part. You keep 100% of the royalties. You get your music on all the major streaming platforms, including the things like Instagram and TikTok, where you can people can make reels or TikToks out of them, which is really cool. You can make money from that. And then there's also so many other features, like, for example, mastering your music. They have an AI mastering program, or releasing music videos. So definitely check them out. Distrokid is linked down below. You can save 7% on your first year subscription if you have not yet. Again, it's who I use and I recommend them. So let's talk about the pros of releasing a single. Well, it is way faster and way easier to produce. You kind of can just get your feet wet. Say, for example, you're a musician that has not released a ton of music yet. It's a great way to get into releasing music without biting more than you can chew. It's also significantly cheaper. You know, whether you're recording it yourself or recording it in an actual studio, it is significantly cheaper. And you know, I want to make a video talking about how to maximize your time in a studio if you are going to a studio, because I typically record everything at home, but I have recorded in studios and I've been like, wow, this is highly inefficient. That's why I like recording at home. So I want to make a video talking about that. But it is way faster and way easier to reproduce a single. The next pro is that it is a great way to stay continually engaged with fans. Say, for example, you release an album, and now let's talk about, like, for example, a con of an album. I was originally going to go, all the pros of singles, all the cons of singles, all the pros of albums, all the cons of albums, but I think that we can kind of tie back and forth, and we'll kind of go through it together like that. A con of an album is that if you release only one a year, say, for example, your fan doesn't particularly like that style of that album, you don't necessarily, they won't maybe necessarily listen to you for a year. Maybe they'll listen to some of your other stuff. But like when you release a single, this again ties into a new point of the singles, is you have an opportunity to try new sounds, and you can kind of experiment a little bit more with your genre and your sound and your taste. And easier in a single than an album. It kind of sounds a little weird when one song in an album is a pop punk, and then one's a piano ballad, and then one's a singer-songwriter. It's doable. People do it, but people kind of also continue one kind of general idea, or maybe two general ideas of a sound in an album. So say, for example, you do singles, they might not like one single, but they might like the next one a lot. It also, I think, gives you the opportunity to practice your craft. The more singles you release, the more you songwrite, and the better songwriter you become. The next one we're going to talk about is a pro of singles, is that you have a better opportunity to receive placement through playlists. When you're releasing just a single song, you can promote that really efficiently, as opposed to an album's a little bit heavier to promote. And you can there's a better opportunity for people to find you through playlists, because it's one specific song, one specific topic. They don't have to sift through 12 different songs. These people that get playlists or have playlists get bombarded with music, so send them one really solid song instead of a couple 12 where they're like, I'm not going to listen to 12 songs. You know what I mean? The last one we're going to talk about with the pro is it's a little easier to track performance. You can see how well that specific song does, as opposed to a whole album, because there's a lot of contingencies inside of an album, in the sense of, if you release a 12-song album, well, are people listening to it straight through, and is that why maybe some of the songs later aren't getting as many streams, or are the songs later just not as strong? Like, why, for example, or why did people like this song over that song? It's a little harder to kind of quantify how and why an album does well. Cons of singles: they lack long-term impact potentially. it's a kind of a little cumbersome to go find a single when you're listening. And say, for example, you're on a long drive, you want to listen to a specific song. Unless you made a playlist, which I don't make playlists. It's just not something I do. Maybe you do, but I just don't. I don't know why. So when you want to hear a specific song, it is kind of cumbersome that you have to go to that specific album or single and then click it. And then when it's over, it's like, okay, now I have to go find something else. Where an album, people can kind of just listen through, like even long term. Like it's like, are you really going to go dig back an album or single from 3 years ago? Maybe, but likely unlikely. So that's what I went for. I release a lot of singles, but I'm not pushing for singles because it's totally different. It depends on what you want to do. But if I release a lot of singles, one thing I would consider doing is creating a playlist of your own of all of your singles so people can just straight up listen to all your singles in a row. There's potentially limited storytelling potential, like overall arcing storytelling potential through playlists. I'm sorry, not playlists. I just read one of my notes was playlists. Through singles, because you're not, like, for example, you can kind of refer to other songs. You can kind of have an overarching theme in an album, where a single is just a snapshot in time, and it's potentially missed revenue opportunities through an album. There's more opportunities to make money through an album than through a single, because, for example, when you're releasing a single, you're not going to make a CD out of it. Which nobody really buys CDs, but sometimes people want them signed or something like that. People are buying vinyls. Vinyls are coming back, and cassettes are coming back as like this fun vintage kind of idea. So you lose the opportunity to potentially sell those or bundle those. Also, there's a lack of potential revenue where like people want to support you, so they're going to buy a $12 album, even online, for example, if they want to buy, which people aren't really buying music, but you also lose the opportunity for like multiple streams. Yeah, that one song people might listen to it a bunch in a row, but like if your album's really good, people might listen to 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 songs as opposed to just one, right? They might just hit the first song on the album, continue listening through, right? For some of my favorite artists, I'll just let the album play through, right? You get 12 streams now instead of just one. You do that on 1,000 times. It's significant. That's 12,000 streams versus 1,000 streams, right? Big difference. And let's talk about the pros of an album now. The pro of an album is a stronger brand identity. People get to spend more time with you. It's like, for example, short form content versus long form content. People get to have a better idea of who you are, what you like, what you don't like, how you feel about things. They feel like they get to know you. They're spending an hour with you instead of 3 minutes. Think about that. Think about you're meeting somebody for the first time, and you get to spend them. You're meeting them, having a 3-minute conversation versus an hour-long conversation. You get to know significantly more about that person, right? That's a significant pro. That's why like things like Joe Rogan podcast are huge right now, because people really I've always wanted to stay connected and want to know a little bit more about the people that they're fans of, and now they have that opportunity to really get inside their brain. That's kind of what an album is. You have potentially a larger body of work for media attention. So, for example, say you're really starting to make some waves in the industry, there is potential for like you to get picked up by any sort of news coverage, whether it even be like a TikTok artist or a TikToker talking about something unique. For example, I remember an artist a couple of years ago, some media has changed a little bit, but she did a full cover of John Mayer's Continuum album. She went through and re-recorded everything on her own in her own style. And like that was talked about all over the place, like just whether it be TikTok influencers talking about music, it was reacted to, all these different things. Like it gives people a opportunity more to talk. There's more to talk about. Again, you have more opportunities for potential revenue making, whether it again be through streams or whether it be through things like the signed copies of things. People aren't really going to buy a signed copy of a single. It's not 1984 anymore, And you get, again, another pro is a deeper fan connection because they get to spend more time with you. A large con is the high time and production cost. It takes a long time to release an album, and it can be very expensive to release an album. One more actually pro, I meant to mention this one earlier, of a single is you can release it really quickly. And we mentioned that, but like, for example, when would you want to release a single? And maybe I'll make another video on this separately, but another reason you might potentially want to make a single is like, say you want a very topical say something happens in the news and you want to release something topical about that, well, it's not going to be as relevant 9 months from now, where if you release a single now, it may be significantly more relevant and potentially have the opportunity for viral opportunities. Con of an album is, again, less frequent opportunities to engage with your fans. You're releasing an album once a year, every 18 months. They don't. It's like a long distance phone call. Like, hey, it's really great to chat for an hour, but I would would you rather chat once a day or once a month or once every 2 weeks for 5-10 minutes, or would you rather chat once a year for an hour? Think about it like that, right? Again, the last one. This is a really interesting point. Is if you are if you release an album, there's potential for you to be oversaturated in the sense of like there's so much music being released that when you release an album, it is 12 songs, but it's 12 songs at once, and then kind of people move on, as opposed to like a single is like almost like a drip therapy, and it's like a once, oh, here's one, microdosing your music, right? Here's another, as opposed to, oh, here's all this stuff, and then if it gets lost in the sauce, then it's lost, all that's lost in the sauce. As opposed to if one song gets lost in the sauce, then maybe the next one has an opportunity. Again, I'm not pushing only for singles. I'm just saying, what do you want to do? And where are you in your career? Maybe I'll, again, make another video on this talking about when it would serve you best to do one or the other and things to think about. But so now that I kind of broke the this might be a video you might want to watch once or twice, like twice through, maybe just kind of get an idea, right? Take some notes what you feel like you relate to. But those are my thoughts on the pros and cons of releasing a single versus an album. But regardless, whatever you decide to, I highly recommend you release them through Distrokid. Again, that's how I release my music. It is the best opportunity out there because you can just, again, release as much as you want or as little as you want, and that's really about it. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Again, I'm curious to know your opinion and why, because I the last thing I'll say about this is my 2 cents is I have released a lot of singles, practically only singles. And a lot of people kind of disagree with that mentality, and I'm curious. I've read their comments as to why, and I'm curious your opinion. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below.